Patreon page. Here we will provide you with the sports betting tips, picks, and information in order for you to become a successful gambler. We have 5 packages that I think really do an incredible job of providing the information tailored to you, what you want, and what your sports betting needs are. For more information, reach out to the TWSN team, but we have a ton of stuff coming your way. Content from fantasy football, sports betting for UFC, NBA, NHL, and of course, the NFL. We are so excited to be able to bring this service to you, and let us know if there's any more information you need.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down on.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the TWSN show, and as you see, we have a new beautiful face here with us. Cody, how you doing?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is great to be here. Everybody knows the TWSN show is the flagship, the staple, the mecca of sports talk here at TWSN, if you will. So honored to be a part of it with you guys. Super excited.
Absolutely. But before we continue to get into things this week, and we have a lot to get into, I think everybody saw how awesome of a week of football we had. But like I said, before I get into things, your weekly reminder to follow along on our social medias, on the YouTube, the Twitter, the Instagram, and the Patreon sale is still going on for a few more days. So I highly recommend you check that out before that sale ends. 50% off for about 6 more days, I believe. Yeah, so definitely jump into that. And now we can get into the fun a little bit. I think we all watched what happened this weekend, but we're going to start off with something that happened today a little bit more, and that is Sean Payton stepping away from football and coaching right now. Well, what are we thinking about this, guys? Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this was kind of coming. I mean, the Saints haven't really done much over the last couple of years. He didn't want to be a part of a rebuild. They almost made the playoffs this year, but I mean, realistically, if they had made it in, they probably would have lost. I mean, they might have matched up with the Buccaneers possibly, and you never know with that matchup. But after that, I mean, they weren't really going anywhere once Jameis Winston went down earlier in the season. So, I mean, I'm not really surprised by it. I think he's going to take a year off, maybe 2 years, just to kind of refresh himself, get rejuvenized, energy back. And we're going to see him back on an NFL sideline, maybe with the Dallas Cowboys if they underachieve next season. I mean, there's been heavy interest from them with him for a while now. And they just never really had the opportunity. I mean, he's still going to be under contract with the Saints for a few years. So they'd have to either relinquish his rights or make a trade or something. But I mean, that will get worked out when it happens. But it doesn't surprise me. I think it's good for him. He got to step away on his own terms. He's done so much for that city. He got them a Super Bowl. And I mean, he deserves to just be able to walk away when he wanted to from that organization.
Jake?
Yeah, it was surprising. First of all, I promise I haven't gotten abducted. This is just a really weird room. I promise I haven't been abducted or anything. But I was when I first heard the news, I was like, that's, interesting. And then I realized, holy crap, he's been there 16 years. Like, this is probably the best hire. Just even thinking about that 2005 Dallas staff with Sperano, Payton. Who else was on that? I don't know. It's like Hall of Famers everywhere on that 2005 Dallas Cowboys staff. And I was like, he's been there 16 years. This is the best hire. But when the Saints brought him over in 2006, this is the best hire a team has made since then, other than Bill Belichick. In that area. So that's crazy to me. There's a ton of different ways to look at it. I think he's a little bit overrated in terms of kind of has a lot of bad playoff losses, and unfortunately, the last 3 things he's going to be, well, you can even add 4. The last 3 things he's going to be remembered for is the Minneapolis Miracle, the collapse at home against the Rams, and then the loss to Minnesota. And then the last 4, well, the 4th is the last couple of years, Taysom Hill contract, consistently falling under the salary cap, not being able to beat Tom Brady the 3rd time in the playoffs, again at home, faltering there. It's just been a combination of disappointing and heartbreaking endings to seasons. And I can compare him to McCarthy because McCarthy made the playoffs 10 times. Sean Payton made the playoffs 9 times. Both of them made 1 Super Bowl and won 1 Super Bowl. So they're 1-0 in Super Bowls, and they never went back. The difference is Mike McCarthy kind of was carried by Sean Payton, and Sean Payton just kind of really got unlucky, but they're very similar. So I don't think he's going to coach this year. It doesn't sound like, or next year. It doesn't sound like he's going to. He might take that Mike McCarthy route and kind of see his options out and handpick his spot, presumably Dallas. Some people say Oakland, but the timeline isn't really right because Oakland's going to hire Vegas. My mistake. Vegas is going to hire a head coach this year. So there's a lot of moving parts here. Certainly surprising. When the news came out yesterday that he was in the building, there was no talk of his, like, there was nothing certain about his future. You could kind of see the dominoes falling there, and you're like, okay, what's really going on here? Because they're not built to win right now. They have a ton of good players, but they can't add anything. They don't have a quarterback, so really they don't have anything other than two all-pro offensive linemen, a couple all-pros on defense, and that's about it. But they have no quarterback and they have no cap to add. So it's kind of a mess. That whole division's a mess. We'll probably talk about that later, but certainly surprising for me.
Got it.
Yeah, it is surprising. And Jake, you brought up that 2005 Dallas staff. Bill Parcells, Mike Zimmer is the DC. They had Todd Bowles, Todd Haley, Anthony Lynn, Sean Payton, Freddie Kitchens, Tony Sperano. Like, that coaching staff is elite, incredible, absolutely incredible. But I think the Saints have honestly one of the worst situations of any team in the NFL heading into this offseason. I think it's negative $70 million in cap.
Yeah.
A Taysom Hill deal that is going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. I would be shocked, quite frankly, Michael Thomas having not played essentially the last 2 seasons. I will be shocked if he plays another down in the New Orleans Saints uniform. I think there's a possibility that Lattimore could be moved. I think there's a possibility that Ramczyk could be moved. And he will be far and above the most sought after offensive tackle this offseason, if that is the case. Incredibly, incredibly talented. But they got guys like Cam Jordan, who I could see them moving on from just as a, hey, look, you did a hell of a lot for this city, like a perennial Pro Bowler for this franchise. Go try to win one somewhere. But yeah, that Saints situation is not great. But yeah, it's kind of shocking, man. He is going to go down as one of the better coaches of the greater 2000s era, right? 2010 on. And I know he won a Super Bowl before that, but he's still going to go down as one of the best and most consistent coaches over the last 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Saints situation in general, like you both alluded to, is not very appealing. Like, there's not much. You have a decent roster in general, but you can't add. You have so many people that are getting paid so much that probably don't really want to be there. I tweeted it earlier, but I mean, and Cody just alluded to it a little bit, but like, there's probably going to be a lot of moves this offseason for the Saints. And because of that, I feel like more than likely the route is probably internally, whether it's hiring Pete Carmichael or Dennis Allen.
Yeah.
Both would be, solid hires. Don't get me wrong, but I doubt they're going to attract any, big names or anything. I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see how the Saints unfold. We're not really used to seeing the Saints be at the bottom of the barrel, and maybe they won't be. Maybe they'll figure out something somehow, but it's just kind of hard to see them being the Saints of the old these next couple of years. Like I said, who knows if they will, but I mean, it's probably not the most exciting time to be a Saints fan today in the next couple of years, but we'll see how it goes.
It's got to be Dennis Allen, right?
You would think it would have to be Dennis Allen.
More than likely.
And look, one of the things about Sean Payton is he has, I think, the best coordinating, outside of maybe Dallas, the best coordinator duo in the entire league. Carmichael's been there. He was the passing game coordinator when they won their Super Bowl.
He's the longest tenured offensive coordinator, I believe.
He's been the offensive coordinator since 2009. So actually, he was the OC when they won the ring. Dennis Allen's been there since 2015. I tweeted earlier today that the 2 best candidates for the job are in-house, based on that they've been here forever. And this is kind of year 2 now. That going into 2022 is kind of year 2 of this feeling out era for New Orleans post Drew Brees. Is it, not everyone can be like the Chargers, who once Phillip Rivers goes, Phillip Rivers last year, they stink, and then they fall into Justin Herbert the next year. Fortunately, they won 11 games with Drew Brees in his last year, so they got stuck with Jameis Winston, and he even got hurt. So it's a rough situation, but it has to be Dennis Allen. I mean, I don't think they even need to think about it personally. That would be a home. That's as home run as it gets.
Wasn't he What job was he a finalist for?
Dennis Allen.
Or he interviewed somewhere else.
Carmichael hasn't been interviewed.
Carmichael hasn't, but Dennis Allen has.
I've been adamant on Carmichael getting looks for like the last 3 years, and he hasn't. But Dennis Allen, I think he has gotten looks. I don't remember though.
He was scheduled to interview for the Bears job, but I don't think he interviewed yet. And I would be shocked. I'm seeing here on Fan Nation that the Saints are supposed to interview Dennis Allen and Aaron Glenn, which would be kind of shocking to me. But yeah, I mean, I would be if they were able to retain Carmichael as the OC, huh?
Allen was supposed to interview today in Chicago, but he didn't because he was at the press
ended up not. Yeah. So if honestly, if they were able to hire Allen and then retain Carmichael as the OC, that is as big of a W as you can possibly get for New Orleans. And that is a city that needs one because the Pelicans stink.
And that might be the only way to keep Dennis Allen, because
I would agree
forever kind of because of Sean Payton. So they might be more inclined to let him go, but that might be the only way to keep Dennis Allen is hiring him as your head coach.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
I think that makes sense. And we just brought up the Bears a little bit, and today they hired Ryan Poles, who's the player of something personnel in Kansas City. In general, I felt like it was a pretty good hire. I felt like it was out of their finalists. I think he was my favorite personally. But how are we feeling about that move, and where do we think the Bears go from there?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of surprised that they hired somebody from the Kansas City Chiefs organization. And the reason I say that is because Matt Nagy is their most recent hire from the Kansas City Chiefs organization, and we all know how that went. So kind of surprising just, with how that situation has worked out. But from a raw stat, Ryan Poles was one of my favorite GM candidates. And we'll talk about my favorite GM candidate who got snagged up by the Giants a little later. But I think Poles is going to do a great job. I think the Bears need somebody who's going to be aggressive with their personnel decisions because that roster is mid. I mean, it's incredibly mid. It's super average. So we'll see if they can't shake it up a little bit and at least get like an offense would be really cool. Would love to see that in Chicago. I know it's never been seen in Chicago. So we'll see if Poles can put it together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought up that they need someone to be aggressive in their decisions because, that was my thinking as well. Like, I'm hoping that this hire for Chicago kind of propels them to do that. Like, as you mentioned, Cody, like, where's the offense? Like, this team should be so much better than they are, but they're not. I mean, we'll see if that was because of Nagy. I mean, it probably was, but I mean, they still won 6 games, something like that. They're
decently
6 or 7 games this year. Like, they still won an okay amount of games, and they almost won a couple other games too. But if they can just make some tweaks, get the right head coach, I mean, I feel like the Bears could honestly be competing for the division next year. Their division isn't that great, especially if Aaron Rodgers ends up leaving. That division is wide open. Like, as Chase mentions in the comments, unleash Justin Fields. Like, why not?
Drafted him for a reason.
Exactly. Like, the defense is still pretty decent in Chicago. Like, make a couple moves, Chicago could be competing for the division.
Yeah, all I've heard today and even yesterday, the thing got leaked because he was at O'Hare with McCaskey, who was pretty much a walking billboard for the Bears. Yeah. And the Bears say that they like to keep things, off the books and quiet. Yet McCaskey's in a Bears mask and a Bears hoodie. With the guy he's interviewing tomorrow in one of the busiest airports in the world. It was hysterical. So the rumors were circling last night, but all I've heard last 24 hours is how this guy is an absolute steal for this position. And, the one thing that he asked for is full control of the coaching staff. And Bears fans were kind of worried that the upper level ownership wasn't going to give the GM that, but they did. So that's good for the Bears. Bears fans should be excited. We don't know who he's going to hire. Jim Caldwell was in the building today. It appears he left without an agreement. So maybe nothing there, but certainly we'll see who they end up hiring. But I expect them to make the right move based on, I don't know much about this guy, but based on what smart people think and know about Ryan Poles, seems like it's a good hire for Chicago.
Okay, so I have to bring this up, right? Kansas City guy. There's an offensive coordinator that's had a lot of head coaching buzz over the last couple of years. Is Bieniemy a possibility in Chicago?
I think so.
Definitely
I
a
mean,
possibility.
there's a clear connection there, and I mean, why not? He
I don't-
knows him.
I don't think he was until they hired him. I know Chicago wasn't looking that way. Yeah, it kind of makes sense, but if the organization wasn't looking there, and if Poles has an agenda to bring Bieniemy with him,
Yeah, because you just said that they gave
probably
him.
wouldn't
He asked
have
for full
taken the
control,
job.
and they gave it to him. So it kind of doesn't
Yeah.
really matter as much
Like
as
this
what
is-
they did before.
Like this is a little bit different from the Giants situation because Daboll is all signs are pointing towards Daboll's going to New York, and he's bringing in an Avengers coaching staff with him, with Dorsey and Martindale. So that would be an absolute Avengers of a coaching staff where, they hired the guy from the Bills, and Daboll was rumored to go to New York before. Now they hired the guy from the Bills, and it's like, okay, Daboll's coming. He's coming with them. So Bieniemy wasn't really rumored for Chicago in the first place. Then they hired this guy. So I don't think there was previous agenda. Otherwise, I don't think he would have taken the job if his one agenda was, I want to bring Bieniemy with me.
Fair. But Joe Schoen hired by the Giants. Yeah, Jake, I mean, I think you said it, man. All signs lead to Daboll being a New York Giant sooner rather than later.
And
Yeah,
if he
Jake.
gets that coaching staff, Ken Dorsey, quarterback's coach for the Bills right now, and Wink Martindale, oh my, I don't know what the Giants did to deserve that, but I'll say it again, that's the Avengers of a coaching staff right there. That's immediately probably a top 6 coaching staff in the league, top 8 probably.
Going from 2 consecutive quarterback sneaks on 2nd and 9 and 3rd and 9 to Daboll and that crew, insane.
That's as good as it gets.
It'll be fun to see, when they take over and if they hire Daboll, kind of what they do with their roster. The roster's in a little bit of a weird spot. There's definitely some pieces there. There's obviously some pieces that you'd probably like to move, get rid of, create some space. But just in general, I mean, is Daniel Jones going to be Daboll's guy? Maybe. I don't know. Do they want to keep Saquon Barkley? Do they want to keep all these expensive people on defense? There's definitely pieces there in the Giants that this amazing coaching staff could potentially have. But you just don't really know. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of the direction they go because they could go a lot of different ways. And I think the coaching staff, like we talked about, it's an Avengers coaching staff. It's awesome. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to keep and who they decide to move on from, I feel like.
I also think while we're on the talk of coaches, one of the things that I was thinking about earlier this week is, the whole thing about hiring defensive coaches, or the argument against hiring defensive coaches is that your offensive coordinator position is just going to be a revolving door forever, which is a problem that some teams are having. Belichick never really had it, but some teams certainly have had it recently and are going to keep having it. McDermott's losing Daboll, of course. But one of the reasons why I think teams are going to be more eerie about bringing in Leslie Frazier, Todd Bowles, guys like that, is because if you hire a young offensive coach, 2 of the smartest defensive minds are out there in Vic Fangio and Wink Martindale. If you hire a young offensive coach, or even if you have a DC position open right now with a young offensive coach already, you should be begging your owner and GM to bring those guys in. Those are 2 of the smartest defensive minds in football that are currently unemployed right now.
I don't think Zimmer would be a bad hire either.
Zimmer as well.
The Steelers just fired their defensive coordinator as well.
Yeah, Zimmer as well for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's I don't know. It's shocking to me that there is some of these old head coaches, old DC minds who've been in the league for a long time who are available. I feel like that doesn't happen very often. So for there to be 3 or 4 available this year is kind of crazy. So we do have one coordinator hire, the splash in the pan. The hire that everybody's been hoping and dreaming for. The
Panthers fans are
the
enjoying.
Panthers. Yeah, Ben McAdoo, offensive genius. People are saying, not any people I know, but people are saying, dude, what are they doing, man? Somebody explain it to me.
I don't really know. I think this Panthers roster, I enjoy this Panthers team. They got a lot of good young pieces all over the place. The offense, you have Christian McCaffrey, you have DJ Moore. That's about it. You know, like, and
Don't
I
forget
think
about
the
Terrence Marshall.
Fantastic.
He
Christian
might
McCaffrey's obviously
be able to come do
fantastic.
something.
But even that, you signed Robbie Anderson to a 3-year.
I don't.
4-year
I don't
I will
understand
never
some
understand
of
why
the
they
moves
extended
that
him.
they've made.
I
Like the
don't get it.
Panthers are just so weird. It's like they got rid of Joe Brady. Okay, fine. Like it kind of seems like another down year and Matt Rule might get fired. Like
Yeah.
at this point, it's just
I wouldn't be shocked.
I would be shocked. Like they gave him like a 7-year deal when they first signed him.
Yeah.
First time head coach, a 7-year
7 years.
deal. Like I think that was
Out of
that was their
college.
first mistake is
At a Temple
doing
at
that. Like I'm not saying Rule's a bad coach by any means, but like you're giving a dude who's never coached in this league from college, from Baylor, who he did an awesome job at Baylor. I'm not taking anything away from him, but like 7 years, that's a long investment in a coach. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And then some of the moves they made, like this team should be a lot better. They
should
their
be. They
quarterback
really should
situation
be.
is also a mess. Like
Yeah, I have no idea who's going to quarterback the Carolina Panthers next year. You could name any name and I could be like, yeah, I could see it. Like honestly, because they're in a position at draft they're pick 7-ish
Yeah.
somewhere.
6, I believe.
6. So they could absolutely get a guy like Pickett or Corral or whoever your quarterback. They could take the quarterback 1 at 6. Honestly, I would not be shocked if a quarterback did not go in the first 5 picks. And they could also get a guy like I hate the signing of veteran quarterbacks or trying to acquire a veteran quarterback that's been average or to okay. Like you look at every veteran quarterback that has been signed this offseason, and every single one of them has been an abject failure with the exception of Matthew Stafford. And I know, Jake, you are super high on him, but in all seriousness, like Colts brought in Wentz, didn't make the playoffs. Broncos brought in Teddy Bridgewater, didn't make the playoffs. Like the Panthers brought in Sam Darnold, did not make the playoffs. The Saints brought in Jameis Winston, did not make the playoffs. All of these teams who brought in veteran quarterbacks were honestly failures.
to be fair though, the Saints were 5-2 before Winston went down.
That is fair.
It doesn't work.
But I get what you're saying. I'm saying like Winston, the Saints might have made the playoffs if Winston doesn't.
And at least the Saints didn't like pay a ton to acquire.
No,
they got Jameis Winston at a fairly team-friendly deal, like not incredibly expensive, but it's not like they traded, multiple first-round picks like Indianapolis did. You could have traded up one more first-round pick and gotten Matthew Stafford and said you shot your shot on Carson Wentz, and we've seen how it works out. Go and get your guy or don't get anybody at all, because the mediocrity of 7-10 or 8-9, it just doesn't cut it in the NFL. You're not going to improve your team. And then you're going to sit here and be in quarterback purgatory for the next 5-6 years.
Yeah. And we kind of talk, I think that kind of has a little bit to do with the defensive minded old heads kind of falling out of the head coaching candidates, because everybody's saying how important it's always been important, but just now this young quarterback is just taking over. So everybody wants to attach their young quarterback to a young offensive mind. I think that's kind of, totally obviously makes all the sense in the world. But I think, just kind of ties in the points about the head coaching and kind of the points we just talked about.
Let me give you a different perspective on McAdoo. So in 2017, he wanted the Giants to take Mahomes. In 2018, he had Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson as the 1 and 2 quarterbacks. This guy has a history of being very, very accurate in terms of quarterbacks, and the Panthers just happen to have one. I guarantee you, in the next 2 years, the Panthers have their franchise quarterback with Ben McAdoo as the OC. I'm not saying I like his philosophy, I like his offense. I'm not saying that the Panthers are going to turn into an offensive juggernaut, because I don't think Matt Rule has worked out, and I think that was a bad hire, and is proving that going down to the college ranks, especially with Joe Brady as well, might not work. Even though, we worked with Jimmy Johnson 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think he got hired to make that pick at 6. That's who's going to be the one to make that pick, because there's a lot of options out there and a lot of guys that have upside and a lot of untapped potential from a guy who was a long-time quarterbacks coach, who's been a long-time evaluator of quarterbacks. He's a smart quarterback mind. So just keep that in mind.
Maybe they hired him because he loves Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody in this league that really loves Sam Darnold. I'm gonna be unless there's a blind quarterbacks coach out there, or one who hasn't watched football in the last 10 years. He turns the ball over too much. He has since his USC days, and I've seen no sign of that decision-making improve since he's gotten into the league. So we'll see. I would be stunned if that is the Panthers' option if they trot out Sam Darnold the opening weekend of the season. But we'll see. We'll see. Oh man, off season. We can talk about the off season later, man. We got a lot. Drafts coming up. I'm excited. Jake's going to the Senior Bowl. I'm sure you're going to get a firsthand look at a bunch of guys. I'm excited for you to tell me all about it. I'm going to read the articles. It's going to be great. TWSN, check it out. All that stuff.
Absolutely.
Promotion.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now we can kind of, move into actual football games. And I think this weekend of the divisional round, you can kind of argue that it was probably the best weekend of football ever. I mean, all 4 games were fantastic. I don't really know how to put it. It'd be really hard to rank them in order. So we'll just go down the list. The first game of the weekend was the Cincinnati Bengals and the Tennessee Titans. How do we feel about that game, Matt? We'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals went on the road, beat the number 1 seed, and now we're in the AFC Championship game to many people's surprise. Like, other than people who have been watching this team all year long, because we know how good this team is. And, there's been a few people in, the scope of the national media that's been riding with this Bengals team, but it's like many were just like, oh, they're a nice little story. They're not going to do anything. And we're still seeing that this week coming into this championship game, but we'll get into that later. But, for the Titans, like I think they need to change the quarterback. I mean, I like Ryan Tannehill, but yeah, like Chase said, they lost a game where they sacked Joe Burrow 9 times. If you sack a quarterback 9 times, you expect to win by double digits, not lose by 3 at home. Scoring 16 points when you have supposedly an awesome offense. I mean, Derrick Henry came back. I mean, granted, he was probably a little rusty, but like your workhorse was back in the lineup, so there's no excuse in that regard. I mean, I just don't know really where Tennessee goes, but credit to the Bengals. I mean, they went on the road. They got their first ever franchise road win in the playoffs, which is really crazy to think about, considering this team's been around for 50 years. But, I mean, I guess they really haven't made the playoffs too many times, but that's besides the point. But, good for the Bengals. Like, it's an awesome story. The city deserves it, and now they have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But that's my takeaway. I mean, clutch. Evan McPherson is clutch. And in this league, you need a clutch kicker.
I would argue right now he is a top 5 kicker in the NFL.
Oh, I agree 100%.
I think you could argue it. It'd be close, but I think you could argue it.
It was definitely awesome. I mean,
that's why you draft a kicker in the 5th round.
Yeah, that's definitely
legit.
Why you draft a kicker. I was at the game down there. Yeah, I was at the game
Logan,
down there, bro. And when they kicked the field goal, the place got so loud I thought he missed, and I looked around and then he made it, and it was just that's how many Bengals fans were down there. They traveled extremely well. It was an awesome environment. I mean, the Bengals won in the ugliest way possible, but at this time of the year, win's a win. You can't complain. You're not going to complain about a win. You should never complain about a win. You're definitely not complaining about a win in January. That's for sure.
Jake, you're awfully quiet down there. What are your thoughts on the game?
Just on to the next one, right?
Yeah.
Jake's too happy.
Out of here.
Jake's too happy right now. Like, look at that smile on his face.
I mean, I'm still waiting for King Henry to make his long-awaited return. Thought he was gonna. This is coming from an unbiased because I didn't get the hype. The guy was playing with a nail in his shoe and his foot.
5 screws and a metal plate.
Clearly
and
was
a plate in a
used
shoe.
Clearly was used as a decoy in the first half. Foreman was the better runner. People picked the Titans simply because of Derrick Henry, and I told them, look, you're gonna be wrong. Like, you're gonna be wrong because you're picking a game based on a running back. You're gonna be incorrect. And Ryan Tannehill kept trying to lose that game, and finally he did. So, look, it was rough. All the twists and stunts and creepers that the Titans were running, the Bengals really haven't seen, or this offensive line and Burrow haven't really seen before. I'm not really worried about that with KC. KC just has similar personnel, but they don't really run that kind of stuff like Tennessee does. So I'm not crazy worried about the scheme-wise blitzes and stunts. It's still a personnel mismatch. But look, the fact that Joe Burrow was on his butt that many times and kept getting back up and kept making good throws, that was unbelievable. I don't really have any words. Just on the next one. But I'm still waiting for King Henry to make his return.
Look, some dudes have it. Joe Burrow has it. Joe Burrow has it. And Malik hates the word. I love the word because there is intangibles, and it matters. Like, some quarterbacks are that guy, and Joe Burrow is that guy. That being said, Titans obviously not 100%, and I understand that sometimes the healthier team wins in the playoffs. The Bengals are, by all intents and purposes, very healthy. So, and they played well. The Bengals really did play well. I like Ryan Tannehill. I think Ryan Tannehill can be a successful quarterback in this league, but you have to have everything around him go right. And their tight end situation was a mess. A.J. Brown is obviously far and above the best receiver on that roster, but they brought in a not washed up, but a not prime Julio Jones, who was never great in the red zone. And that was it. That was all the reinforcements that they brought in. And then they relied on a run heavy game a run heavy scheme all year. And they got to a point where the best running back on that Titans roster Saturday was Donta Foreman.
And he got 4 carries.
Yeah. And he was significantly better, looked significantly better than Henry. So, look, Titans, I like your coach. I don't think there's a ton you can change. Maybe get Tannehill a weapon, hope that you stay a little healthier next season and go from there. But the Bengals have a lot to look forward to. Next week should be fun. But yeah, that's
Do you know who the Titans are? They are the 2015 Bengals with a healthy Andy Dalton.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I can see that.
Yeah, I like that, actually. I really do.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. That's pretty good.
Thank you. Nice job,
Jake, I'll give you a compliment.
Guy.
That was a good comparison.
Thank you.
Good for you. Mizzou,
using
I
his
guess
brain.
Mizzou's education is a little bit better than I thought.
It's not just a football school, Cody. Not just a football school.
I wouldn't call it a football school at this point. Jeez. It is what it is.
Yeah, so we'll move on to the nightcap of the Saturday games. Very interesting game here in the Packers and Jake's 49ers. Like I said, they're Jake's 49ers. So start us off, Jake.
Yeah, baby. Let's go. One more win for a year of stress. 19 games of just stress. This team has, oh my God, they keep doing it to me. Jimmy Garoppolo has gone 2 healthy seasons, 2 NFC championship games, a win away as a 3.5-point or now 3-point dog to making 2 Super Bowls in 2 healthy seasons. And I don't know what happens if he wins one more game. Trey Lance sitting on his ass on the bench. I don't know.
It's crazy to think that the 49ers top 3 pick is not playing. Quite frankly, they could have had Jamar Chase. This offense could be this offense with Jamar Chase, and it's not. And that's something that's really interesting to talk about.
Yeah, any pick would technically be more valuable for this year than Trey Lance was.
Yeah.
So,
they could have taken Sewell, put him at right tackle, or probably Williams probably would have played right tackle. But if they could have taken Sewell, put him at left tackle, Sewell and Williams.
Can we talk about the football beauty that was moving Trent Williams to tight end and then motioning him on those outside zone runs? That was sensual to watch. It was unbelievable. Kyle Shanahan is the best run game coach I have seen in my time as a football fan. It's unbelievable to watch what he's been able to do with a mixture of Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel and the weapons on that offense. It's beautiful. My San Francisco 49ers future Super Bowl future bet at plus 2,100 looks pretty good. Shameless plug to the TWSN Patreon because I put that play on there. But I
have plus 900 to win the NFC.
Woo! Man, we're good at what we do. I tell you that the team over there does an incredible job. But this 49ers team plays hard-nosed, good football. And They play very outside of obviously Jimmy G's interception at the end of the first half was a bad throw, but they play good mistake-free football for the most part. And you want to talk about mistakes, that killed the Packers. It was abysmal. It was terrible. And Aaron Rodgers did not play well. He did not play well. He played incredibly poorly. That's not what you expect from an MVP caliber quarterback. And quite frankly, you scored 10 points at home. You deserve to lose. Say what you will about the 49ers offense scoring 6 total points. That was more than enough because they whooped your ass in your stadium where it's so cold. It's so hard to play. Which I am, I'm going to be talking out of the side of my mouth here because I said earlier this season, I don't know who can go into Lambeau and win. Apparently anybody. Apparently it's not that hard to play in Lambeau because how many Packers playoff losses have we seen in Lambeau over the last couple of years? A good handful, a ridiculous amount. Actually, it's kind of absurd.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually just going to bring that up, Cody. I'm not going to sit here and say that Aaron Rodgers isn't a top quarterback in the league, but I think it is time to start a narrative about his playoff performances because, but I mean, like the dude won a Super Bowl. Cool. Hasn't been back. I mean, this dude is one of, if not the greatest thrower of football I've seen ever. He's just so talented, but like every year in the playoffs, he can't get it done. It doesn't matter. Like something happens. And he loses on the road in San Francisco a couple years ago. He loses at home last year to Tom Brady. He loses this year at home to Jimmy Garoppolo. This is the year he was supposed to do it. His final dance, so-called. He had the defense to do it. I mean, the offense is pretty good all season. Like, I don't know what happened. It was just honestly, it sometimes seems like Aaron Rodgers just doesn't care. Like, he just doesn't care about what's going on. Like, I've talked to, a few Packer fans, and that's their sentiment too. They're just like, I don't get it. It's like they're tired of losing, basically. Like, not saying he has to win a Super Bowl every year, but it's kind of like you get a home playoff, all these home playoff games, you're losing in the cold, like you said. Like, what is going on here? This dude is supposed to be this generational player, but it's like he's nowhere near what Tom Brady is. Tom Brady never would have let any of this happen. Tom Brady just went into Lambeau last year and beat him.
I hate that. Aaron Rodgers has had one top 5 defense in his career.
Yes, but it's
Tom Brady's had 7.
But like Chase said, Aaron Rodgers have at least 3 Super Bowls. With how talented he is, he should be able to do this.
I agree and I disagree. How many quarterbacks do you have that have 3 Super Bowls? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's hard to.
I know. Well, because I mean, you can make the argument about Dan Marino. He doesn't have any, but it's just like every year something happens with Aaron Rodgers. It's just he doesn't show up when it matters. I mean,
he just lost to a team that didn't score an offensive or
but that's my whole point. Like, you score one touchdown on offense if you're the Green Bay Packers, and it was a rushing touchdown.
Yeah,
that happened.
Yeah, I'm not going to put all of the Green Bay's postseason failures. This year it's on Rodgers. In the past, like
last year was on Rodgers too.
I'll say that.
I think it's funny. Did you guys read this?
Mike McDaniel just
outscheme your defense. The fact that he's openly like, hey, look, if you want to hire me for a head coaching position, your state needs to have legal marijuana is just hilarious. Like, not jokingly, he's like, if your state does not have legal pot, don't even consider me.
He said that
coaching position. Yes, in an interview, he's like, do not hire me if your state does not have legal.
I love
insane.
That's classic.
That's beautiful. That's a man who knows what he wants.
Oh my God.
I've been going off with this guy for like a year and a half. I absolutely love him. But back to Rodgers. This is on Aaron. Like, of course it's on Aaron. Can he throw to anyone but Devontae Adams? Like, ever?
Dude,
like
terrible. It was the third quarter before another receiver touched the ball.
The narrative that like, oh well, he needs to have more weapons. Like, bro, Tom Brady's out here throwing to Scotty Miller. Like, what do you know what I mean? Like, I understand that at the start of the season they had a lot of weapons, but like Tom Brady has won games and won Super Bowls with guys who you don't typically like. Wes Welker is not a first round talent. Julian, thank you. Like, what are we doing? Like, I understand
Kansas
that,
State.
but like, you have to be able to utilize the talent that you do have, and he hasn't done that.
Can we? So Aaron's very sensitive. He does not take criticism very well, and he knows he's not going to be as likable as Favre or Manning. He's never going to have the trophies that Brady does, and he holds on to the fact that he doesn't throw interceptions, and he has a really good passer rating, and he plays like it. He plays scared. He does not push the ball down the field. He didn't all year long. He does not make you. Sometimes you have to force relationships with guys that are not superstars. Brady's been doing it for almost 20 years. Aaron Rodgers hasn't forced any relationships because he's selfish. He doesn't take criticism very well. He loves to know where he stands in the media. And the fact that his teammates and coaches have to kind of walk around eggshells when being on his team has been concerning. And Packer fans and the Packers brass have kind of just waddled around it for almost a half a decade now, because this has been the situation forever. But now it's too late because he's going to be leaving. So really, what are we left with? I think Aaron Rodgers' career is post Super Bowl is dwindled down to 3 games. And you can talk about the Arizona game. That was unlucky. The Arizona game was bad in 2015. That was very unlucky. Tom Brady once threw for 550 yards in the Super Bowl and lost. 2014, number 1. His defense forced 5 turnovers and they didn't win the game. That was Aaron Rodgers' fault. Last year, Tom Brady, his defense forced Tom Brady to throw 3 interceptions. In each of those ensuing drives, Aaron Rodgers went 3 and out. Yet everyone blamed Matt LaFleur, Aaron Jones, and Kevin King. And this year, his defense held Jimmy G and the 49ers to 10 points. What did Aaron Rodgers do? Opening drive touchdown on a scripted drive, 3 points the rest of the game.
Yep.
On the biggest drive of the year, 3 and out. Force it to Devontae Adams on 3rd down. Like, this has been on Aaron forever. It's an Aaron thing. I don't have anything against Aaron Rodgers, but when you put everything into perspective, I kind of do, because his legacy is dwindled down to those 3 games. Like, this one's gonna hurt Aaron for a long time.
Well, and it's like he's now 0-4 against the 49ers in his playoff career. Like, and this is the dude who, when he got drafted, was like, the Niners are going to regret not drafting me. And then it's like they're 4-0 against you in the playoffs.
Like, and in 2019, when he lost, I almost called it candlestick. Jeez. When he in 2019, when they lost in San Francisco, I know Cody like that. When they lost in San Francisco, their defense got gashed. But even though Rodgers, they got some garbage time points, but they were down multiple scores at halftime, and the game was over by the middle of the second quarter. The buses were already started. In his post-game press conference, he said, "We need to get one of these at Lambeau because it's different playing in 20 degrees. The next 2 years, he got eliminated at home."
Yep.
39 regular season wins the last 3 years with Matt LaFleur. 2 playoff wins.
Yep. It's tough.
It's
tough.
Not the best there, Aaron. But we can move on to the Bucks and Rams game. Yeah, another pretty exciting game. These Sunday games were fantastic.
I gotta use the bathroom. I'll be right back. Just keep talking.
All right, fine. We'll forgive you. Go. Since you're gonna duck these hands you're about to receive, but look, Stafford did it, man. Stafford did it. And say what you want, like the Rams tried to give that game away. They did everything that they could, but it wasn't on Stafford. I mean, a Cup fumble, 2 Akers fumbles, like without those turnovers, we're talking about this game completely differently without those turnovers. Tom Brady fights, man. He is never out of it. And that game came down to the wire, absolutely electric. But look, the Buccaneers were just too banged up. To be the pressure was on Tom. Wirfs being out killed him. It is what it is. I think the better team that day won. I don't know if the Rams are the better team all season, but they were better that day and they won. And should be an exciting. I love McVay, man. He's great at what he does. We'll see if he can finally get over the LaFleur hump or Shanahan. Why did I say? Oh, it's a
You have
Washington
met with
football
them.
staff. The
Two very
Washington
good-looking
football
dudes
staff
that,
picture.
get confused. They're two
I
very
know.
attractive dudes.
I know. It's tough. It's tough. Oh, but yeah, I mean the Rams. I'm excited,
I'd
man.
say the
They're a
Rams
fun team.
might have been the better team all year. They beat them down in LA earlier in the year when they were all healthy.
Fair.
And then, like you said, if not for a fumble here and there, the Rams are blowing out the Buccaneers at home. Granted, different circumstances with the injuries to Tampa. But, I mean, yeah, the Rams tried to lose the game. They legitimately were like, here you go, Tampa Bay. Here's a free pass of the NFC Championship game once again.
Yeah.
But this time, Tom Brady didn't get the bounces, basically. And Stafford played a hell of a game. Like I said on this show last week, if the Rams were to go into Tampa and win this game, the narrative on Matthew Stafford completely changes, because coming into the year, we didn't even know if he could even win a playoff game. He just won 2. And, Jake, you've been on this saying that Matthew Stafford would never win 2 playoff games. And the first thing I thought of when they kicked the field goal to win the game was like, I wonder how Jake's reacting to this.
I immediately went to see Jake's Twitter. I was
right.
like,
and
this is going to be good.
And it's like, if Matt Stafford somehow beats the 49ers next week, Jake might not even show up next week. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But credit to the Rams. I mean, they went on the road across the country, won the game. Now they get a home playoff game to go to the Super Bowl, to play in the home Super Bowl. Like coming, who would have thought, like, when the playoff schedule first started, that the 4 seed, the Los Angeles Rams, would be getting a home game to basically play a home game.
Yeah, insane. It's
like,
insanity.
It's kind of a cool story if you think about it. Like, if they just basically we're getting SoCal versus NorCal. That's what we're getting this weekend.
We've never had, up until last year, we've never had a home team in the Super Bowl, and Patrick Mahomes is 1 win away from having to face a home team from playing a road Super Bowl 2 years in a row.
That sucks.
That's unbelievable.
That's
Matthew Stafford got better as the game went on, as the Rams kept getting worse, which is I thought was amazing. He didn't make a single mistake until he had a bad throw in the red zone that could have gotten picked, and it didn't. And I think that was his only bad throw of the day. And I watched that whole thing. I really don't think he made a bad throw. It was unbelievable. He was off the charts.
Yeah. I don't think there's much else to really say. The Rams kind of controlled it until they didn't, and then they almost lost it, and they stepped up when they needed to.
Yep.
I mean, we all saw how the game ended with the Cooper Kupp running straight down the field and just was right open and caught the football.
It's unbelievable the different seasons that Cooper Kupp and Calvin Johnson have had. Like, both obviously record-setting, unbelievable years, same quarterback. Just they're completely different. Calvin Johnson was catching balls over dudes in triple coverage. They were double press man on a guy. I've never seen that in my entire life. Like, just unfathomable what Calvin Johnson did physically. And then Cooper Kupp is just somehow always open. Like, I don't understand how his route running is impeccable. It's flawless. The scheme is great. Like, they do everything right. The timing between those two has been exceptional all year. Kupp's a star, man. He is incredibly fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, there ain't nothing else to say. Dude, he gets open. And when you're open, your job's pretty easy after that. And Matthew Stafford gets him the football, and he goes and scores. Been pretty easy for him. We'll see if he can do it 2 more times.
Yep.
But we can move on. Probably the most exciting game we've seen in a long time. In this Chiefs and Bills game. I was so exhausted watching the game, thought I was about to go to bed, and then, no, not so fast. I don't even know. How do you let somebody go however many yards in 13 seconds?
The jokes on the internet about 13 seconds being enough time has invigorated my soul. I mean, it's
been pretty funny.
This is a great game for memes, honestly. Just a great meme
Absolutely.
game. Gabe Davis dusting that dude on third touchdown, second. I have no idea. He scored so many touchdowns. It's unbelievable. But man, what a game. It was beautiful football. Terrible defensive football, but it was beautiful football. That is what the playoffs are about. Like, two teams playing exceptionally well. These the quarterbacks played perfect games. You couldn't ask for any more at the highest level.
It was pretty ridiculous. I mean, there was 14 points scored in the first quarter. I think each team
Yeah.
had 7-7 or something, and then in
Yep.
the last 2 minutes, there was 25 points scored in the game.
Yeah.
It was wild. Like watching
I
that
can't
was
believe it.
it was wild. And the only thing I'm like credit to Kansas City. They obviously won the game, but I feel for the Bills, man. Like they thought they had that all year long. We want the Chiefs. Like they were 13 seconds away from getting their season-long goal, and Mahomes just snatched it away from them. And if I just feel for the Bills and their fans because they probably had some flashbacks to those Super Bowls. Just things just not going their way, and that was my only thought watching that game.
I don't know. Like, I obviously feel bad for Bills fans because one, Bills Mafia is awesome. There's a bunch of great people. They do a lot of great things, but I mean, I can't feel too bad for somebody who let up 50 yards in 10 seconds. Like,
They should have closed that game out. They didn't. And
I feel bad for the fans because the fans aren't the ones that are on the field like playing. Yeah, exactly. I feel bad for the fans. Like they were so close, but just
half of them probably didn't even see the last 13 seconds. They were celebrating.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, yeah,
crazy.
Jumping off
Josh
tables and
Josh
stuff.
Allen, we talk about Josh Allen a lot on this show, but he really grew up in these playoffs. We saw what he is fully capable of, and if he can just sustain that through an entire season, the Bills are going to win a Super Bowl in the next couple of years.
9 touchdowns, 14 incompletions. That was Josh Allen's playoffs. Absolutely against Bill Belichick and Andy Reid.
Yep.
Insane. It really is insane. I hate NFL overtime. It's absolutely ridiculous. Since they put the rule into place that it's not first field goal anymore, it's first touchdown, the game is over. But if they kick a field goal, other team gets another chance. Since that rule has been implemented, the team that has won the coin toss has won the game 10 out of 11 times. It's an incredibly flawed system. Is it fair? Yeah, it's a 50-50 flip. It's absolutely fair. It's just that the game isn't coming down to football. It's coming down to a coin flip. Do I have the solution for the overtime problem? No. But as fans, we deserve something better. This has been the overtime in the NFL has not been great. Like when you look at it, and obviously football is an entirely different sport. I get that, right? But when you look at extra innings in baseball, when you look at NHL overtime, when you look at NBA overtime, college football overtime, they're
all of which suck, by the way.
But there has to be something for a better product because this is not it. I saw a tweet, objectively hilarious. Beer pong has a better overtime system than the NFL. And it's true.
It depends how you play. How do you play?
The final cup, you get a redemption shot or whatever, right? Yeah.
That's not overtime.
Okay. What's your overtime? You bring 3 cups back in.
You 3 and you stack one on top.
You do the stack? Oh,
yeah.
You're chaotic. You're chaotic. I like that energy.
With water, of course.
Yeah, obviously. Got to stay hydrated. That's the rule here on the TWSN show. We like to make sure that we're properly hydrated all the time. But yeah, something needs to just try something. NFL, give me something, right? Because
I just personally I don't mind the overtime rules for the regular season, because you want to get quick to get to the next week, but in the playoffs that sucks. You got to find something for the playoffs. It's kind of like in baseball. It's in the regular season, they put a runner on second base, but then in the playoffs they don't do that because that's just not a fair way to do it in a postseason game. So if anything, just fix the playoffs. I don't care about the regular season. Yeah, it sucks, but you're just trying to get to the next game. In the playoffs, you don't want a team going out. You don't want a game like what we just saw ending like it did.
Yeah.
Or the Super Bowl with the Patriots and the Falcons ending like it did, where it's just the Patriots got the ball and they just went down and scored. They don't even give the Falcons
all the momentum in the world.
Well, and
exactly. I don't know. I don't know the answer, but that's why I'm not paid the big bucks for the NFL. That's for them to figure out.
Yeah. I would love to see them try something in the preseason or
something.
Yeah, just give me
overtime in the preseason. What are you saying?
Okay,
It's
I just
spiraling now.
the reason I say that is because they try to implement new rules in the preseason. Obviously, overtime in the preseason is stupid, but like they need to implement or attempt it. Maybe they attempt to implement something in the regular season before they change it for the playoffs. I just want to see something that's not that like it's very much decided by a coin flip, and I don't like it. Like I don't know what the solution is, but I don't like what currently
the only
exists.
thing. There's two ways to win the game in overtime. People don't realize that. Number one is score a touchdown. Number two is get a stop and kick a field goal. So the only thing the coin flip decides is who has to score a touchdown and who has to get the stop and kick the field goal. Both probabilities are very, very similar. They might be the same. I don't have those numbers with me, but they're pretty much the same.
It's 10 to 11.
Or get a stop and kick a field goal. So I know it's so unfair of the NFL to ask the Buffalo Bills, number one scoring defense, to not to get a stop and kick a field goal to win the game in overtime. I know that's crazy unfair. I know it's also crazy unfair to ask them to stop and end the game with 13 seconds left.
Okay.
I don't know.
Here's obviously the end of regulation was crazy, right? But this game could have gone into overtime, any which way.
Yeah.
Right. Like it could have gone into overtime with neither team scoring with 5 minutes left. Right.
Right.
And I'm not saying that it's not fair. It's fair. By all means, it's very fair. Your coin, it comes down to literally a 50-50 coin flip on who gets the ball and who does not. But saying that the coin flip doesn't decide is objectively statistically wrong, because 10 out of the 11 teams since they changed that rule who have gotten the ball first in the playoffs in overtime have won.
Well, so there's a discrepancy there because in the regular season, it's 52%. So it does make sense because there is higher tier offense and higher tier quarterback play in the postseason. It's also 11 games instead of, I think it's like 142. So the sample size is ridiculous. The difference in sample size.
Yeah.
But again, it's also unbalanced because the quarterback play is a lot higher in the playoffs. So if you're playing overtime in the playoffs, you're more likely to have two great quarterbacks, especially as you go deeper in. So yes, I understand that and don't disagree there, but there's only been 11 times. And
I just want to see something different. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's
to be fair, though, sorry to interrupt you, but the one game where the team that won the toss lost the game was New Orleans against the Rams. And everyone blamed but the Saints for losing that game. They blamed something else. So people are always going to complain about.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
you just got to make
fans
it
a part of that.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, people always find things to complain about.
So what makes sports great, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't have shit to talk about for an hour.
No, exactly.
And we got two more games to talk about before we head out of here. Championship weekend, boys. I mean, a bunch of very different teams here than people would have projected before the season. Nobody had the Bengals here. Not many people besides Jake had the 49ers here. But they're here. And we'll start with the first game of the day. Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs. How we feeling?
All right. First off, Jake and Matt and Logan, 7 points. They're giving the Bengals 7 points. A team that last time I checked, it was like 20 some odd days ago. We just beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I understand.
I think the Arrowhead's the different. It's the Arrowhead. That's what it is.
I understand, but man, what are we? 7 points.
Yeah, they're disrespecting Cincinnati.
It's not like the Bengals don't have an injury that's game changing. Like the Larry Ogunjobi is the only difference in roster between this game and that game. Like the Chiefs didn't bring anybody.
That's Jermaine Pratt's healthy this time.
Yeah,
Jermaine Pratt's playing. Logan Wilson's been playing for a couple weeks now, not just coming back from injury. Like,
I just in my mind, 7 points seems like a ton.
I agree.
I think they're disrespecting the Bengals, quite frankly, but this should be a great game. It really should. In my mind, if you are the Bengals, you have to get ready to defend screens because they will screen you to death. And it got the Bills quite a bit. It neutralized their pass rush. They were not able to get to Patrick Mahomes. The Bengals have to figure out screens, but we'll see how it goes. What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, I saw a little stat today that I wanted to bring up a little bit. But this year, when the Bengals win the time of possession, they are 6-1. It's a little weird because usually you associate time of possession with, running the football a lot. But then you're like, you don't want to take the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands. You obviously don't want to give the ball to Patrick Mahomes. So I think just that stat and seeing how they kind of approach that will be pretty interesting to me, because if you can win, obviously if you win the time of possession, the odds have been in your favor all year, but you don't want to take the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands. You just simply don't. And I know Joe can complete plenty of passes under 5 yards and just dink and dunk all day long, but it was a kind of stat that kind of stood out to me. And I think it's a decent recipe for success against the Chiefs. Obviously easier said than done, but it'll be interesting to see how they go about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we've all seen this narrative that the Bills and Chiefs game was the Super Bowl, and that the Chiefs are just going to just basically just roll over the Bengals. And it could happen. Anything. It's football. Anything can happen. But when are people going to stop disrespecting Joe Burrow? When are they going to learn? Basically, this dude thrives off of disrespect and off of just pure people doubting him. He did it at LSU. No one thought he could do anything. Look what he did. No one thought the Bengals could even win the division. Okay, well, look what he did. No one thought they could win a playoff game. He's won 2. I think the Bengals are in a good situation. Arrowhead is loud, and the noise is going to be an issue probably, but I think they have a good shot. They just beat the Chiefs 3 weeks ago? 4 weeks, whenever it was, a couple weeks ago.
Second to last game of the regular season.
It was in 2022. It was the first couple of days
to clinch the division.
Yeah, exactly. And now they have a chance to go
one
to
seed, so let's
Super
not act
Bowl.
like they didn't try either.
No, exactly. Basically the Bengals took the Chiefs one seed shot away, and the Chiefs are a really good football team. They're led by an awesome quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, but so are the Bengals. Joe Burrow is really good. Why are people still not realizing this? I honestly don't understand it. Can you guys explain that to me? Because I don't get it. We saw what this dude did at LSU, tearing up SEC defense. Fine, it's college. He comes in, first full season as a starter, wins the division in a really tough AFC North, and then wins playoff games for the first time in 30 years.
Yeah.
Why are people acting like this team is just gonna be a 30-5, 30-7 type of game?
Jake, you're muted, pal.
5. That'd be sick.
Yeah, safety.
Might be
Somebody bet the safety prop this weekend.
Scoregami.
Yeah.
Jake, I've got to ask you, you're an SEC guy currently attending Mizzou. You know what a loud stadium's like. Everybody is saying, well, Arrowhead's different. Arrowhead's different. Would you put, if you had to put money on it, would you say that Arrowhead is louder than the SEC? This is a genuine question because I have not had the privilege to watch some SEC football, and I've also never been to Arrowhead, so I don't know. But surely he's seen it, right?
Arrowhead has they have the decibel record. They have the record, but runtime records are kind of Mickey Mouse. The SEC has 8 stadiums that have more seats than Arrowhead,
by a lot.
And the other 2 that are right down there are Ole Miss and Arkansas, which are also extremely loud. Joe Burrow went to Gainesville. He went to Bryant-Denny, Bryant Kenny. He went to Auburn. He's fine.
I mean, he said it himself back in I think October. This is nothing. The SEC is louder than all these stadiums.
I love how everybody's using that. Like he said,
Arrowhead's going to be freaking loud.
I'm not saying that Arrowhead's not going to be a problem because the Chiefs fans get up, but also the Bengal fans travel. We saw it last game.
Yeah, and we'll see. Obviously, Joe said that before he played in an NFL playoff game. So
right.
Obviously the crowd
atmosphere.
Yeah, the playoff game at Paul Brown was the loudest game that I've ever been to by a large margin. And I've been to a lot of NFL games, but I don't know. I think this should be, by all accounts, a great game. I think the Bengals are better defensively at every level than the Chiefs. I really believe that. I think they are better at all 3 levels defensively than the Chiefs are. Now, is that going to be enough? Mistakes are going to make or break this game for both teams. Honestly, if Patrick Mahomes makes mistakes and the Bengals force him into mistakes, the Bengals will win this game. And if the Bengals cannot block and they cannot figure out how to protect a zone blitz, because that's what the Chiefs will bring, they will. I don't agree with their philosophy, but they're going to bring 5 and 6 guys. We'll see. The Titans got a lot of their pressure rushing 4 and 5, which was incredibly impressive. A lot of stunts, a lot of things that offensive line was not ready for. I don't think the Chiefs are going to do that, like Jake said, and we'll see. But this should be an electric game. This should be. People said that Bills Chiefs game was incredible, and I think obviously that game is going to be insane to live up to. But I think I still think it's going to be an awesome game to watch for general fans, not just Bengals and Chiefs fans.
The last thing I'll say about the game before we move on, this particular individual has been very interesting on social media of late. If Eli Apple has a pick 6 this weekend, Twitter is going to be unreal.
Bro,
I can't even begin to imagine what this
general.
I can't even think about it. I don't want to think about it.
I think we want to think about it. I want to see it happen.
Man,
I think it's fair to say that Twitter and the internet and anybody with a microphone or a podcast or a blog wants the Bengals to win, because holy shit are the Mahomes outside of Patrick insufferable.
Eli Apple will probably talk about them.
He going
no one is safe from Eli Apple. We've seen this.
Did you guys see Sean Payton talk about him today?
Yeah. We're rooting for our guys, Trey and Vaughn, and I guess Eli.
He's like Eli too, I guess.
Good news though, Rashad Fenton's playing.
Is that really a game breaker for you?
Ooh.
Well, saying he got mossed by Jamar Chase.
I was gonna say Jamar Chase.
You have to imagine they're gonna do everything in their power to not let that dude catch the football.
Yeah, so. But they don't have a guy who can stop Jamar, or they don't have an island type of corner. They don't.
This feels kind of like a T. Higgins type of game.
Their corners are so bad.
You can't guard. There's no way you can guard one side without help.
I don't think they have a corner that can guard any 3 of their receivers.
And they're going to, and I don't think they have a defensive line that's good enough. Chris Jones, obviously an incredible talent, but I don't think they have a good enough defensive line to get pressure rushing 4. So they're going to have to bring somebody. I don't think they're going to be able to bring someone else and still cover those 3 guys, and Uzama, who's played exceptionally well the last several weeks. It'll be a great game. I really do think it'll be great. But we can't just talk about that one, because there's another great game in the NFC. Is it like, does the AFC always get the early game, or like, how does that, is it just because it's West Coast?
So.
If the Bengals are in the playoffs, yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
It's the most Bengals thing to get the early Saturday game.
I saw the Super Bowl up to 5:30.
No, I legit saw something on Twitter that if the Bengals were to win this game, they would only be getting their second primetime game the entire season.
Yeah.
With the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl.
I think that's crazy.
I think
and Thursday night versus Jacksonville.
Yeah, like
the
week 4 too. They're like, I guess this game works.
The difference in our schedule next year to this year is just going to be laughable. Next year we're going to have like 4 primetime games. It's going to be that's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, Jake, you're the 49ers enthusiast here. So how are you feeling about this game?
Niners win. Goodbye. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I'm optimistic. I think they're going to get it done. I don't think you go into Lambeau and win for no reason just to lose to Matthew Stafford. Like the Rams are scared, man. They're doing that. They're doing this thing, and I've been so outspoken about the Rams fan base for so long. That's really where I'm from. It's so embarrassing. Like I remember in 2018, I said if the Rams win the Super Bowl, and thank God no one can beat them. If the Rams win the Super Bowl, the city will be more concerned about, like on the parade day, the city will be more concerned about driving to work and at the traffic than the actual parade itself. Like that's like the traffic to go to work on parade day is going to be a bigger.
It's the
concern.
405.
It's an embarrassment, like the fan base. And yeah, as they've gotten better and as they've added more superstars, more people have hopped on the bandwagon, obviously, and people here hate them too, obviously, here in Missouri because of Kroenke, and they hate that guy so much. I don't really blame them, but yeah, like I and now Stafford's.
Jake's having a rough day.
This is like a collision of, the Niners have been my team, and I've hated the Rams for so long. Like something has to give here, and I like the matchup. I like the matchup against Dallas. I liked the matchup against LaFleur. I like this matchup against McVay.
I think people sleep on this 49ers roster because of Jimmy Garoppolo. If you blur out the quarterbacks, like if you just take your hands and cover them up, like the stars across this game are insane. Right. I mean, Bosa, Kittle, Debo, like Trent Williams, like Wagner, this Arik Armstead, like there's so much talent on this 49ers team. And then you look over at the Rams, they have Aaron Donald. Sorry, not Darnold.
Good Sam Darnold?
Yeah, bro.
Breaking news, Darnold is a Los Angeles Ram.
Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, Cooper Kupp, like OBJ, like they're studs. Like there are so many superstar talented players, like name-worthy guys in this game that are just going to be electric to watch. And honestly, it's going to come down to whose playmakers make more plays, which is the dumbest, like the most cliche bullshit I've maybe ever said. But somebody start like because it's going to come down to the best players playing good football. But I really do think like what's going to separate this game is guys stepping up. Can Jimmy G step up? Can Stafford be the guy that he has been the last couple weeks? We'll see. This game is going to be, I think it's going to be one. I think it's either going to be close and the 49ers win, or I think the Rams will obliterate them. I don't think there's,
they ain't blowing them out.
I don't, if the Rams get up ahead, there's no possible way Jimmy G is going to lead them.
Let's not forget that the Rams were up double digits on this team just a couple weeks ago before they blew the game, in the same stadium. I mean, the Niners blew them out on Monday Night Football earlier in the year, but that was also the first week of Beckham joining the team, and Robert Woods went out, and it was a mess for the Rams at that time.
Remember when I predicted that and Cody called it crazy?
Jake, I am legitimately convinced that if the Bengals meet the Niners in the Super Bowl, you're going to root for the 49ers.
That'll be a pretty win-win for Jake.
Like I'm legitimately convinced this is what's going to happen.
I would hate that would be the one, because if that matchup happens, there's Jake gets to be happy as a fan, or Jake gets to be right.
Exactly.
And I don't know what's going to be more insufferable.
I don't know what's worse. I really don't. But yeah, I think the Rams are going to get it done this week.
I didn't predict the Niners to win the Super Bowl. Well, I sort of did. I have a tweet up there saying that the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl. I don't know who's playing quarterback for them. But in my preseason predictions, I did say the Niners were going to lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So it's more of the Niners winning the NFC.
So either way, God,
it's going to be insufferable either way. But we'll see. That's why we have to play the game on Sunday. But I think the Rams are going to get it done. I mean, I've been high on this Rams team all season long. I picked them to win the Super Bowl earlier in the year. I mean, they have a home game. This literally, there's no excuse. There's no excuse for this Rams team. Von Miller looks like Von Miller once again, and it's been pretty awesome to watch. You combine him with Aaron Donald, and that is terrifying. If I'm Jimmy Garoppolo, I am terrified because Von Miller has been getting to the quarterback like crazy over the last couple of weeks, including on Garoppolo in the final game of the season.
Man, but if you're gonna stop that run, or if you're gonna stop that pass rush, you know what works? Some exotic screens, some really creative running offense.
Yeah, I mean, and Shanahan's had McVay's number. That's kind of what it's going to come down to, is that Shanahan's had his number. McVay's going to need to basically win this one. He got what he wanted: a home playoff game in SoFi Stadium as the 4 seed. Like I said, no one saw this coming. Basically, we thought either Green Bay or Tampa would probably be the team that would be hosting this, but the Rams are hosting this. They're playing a division rival, NorCal versus SoCal. It's a classic matchup. I mean, we saw this matchup in baseball in the playoffs this past year with the Giants and Dodgers, and we get it again in the NFL, and I think that's awesome.
It's
You know,
Makes
being
for-
from SoCal, like that is just an awesome.
Makes for a
rivalry,
great narrative.
basically. Exactly.
Makes for a
It's just
great narrative.
one California team is going to represent the NFC in SoFi Stadium in LA for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I know, and it's not the same, I guess, but I mean, like, I know San Francisco isn't exactly too close to SoFi, but like, you gotta think they'd have more of a home field advantage than anybody they're gonna play from the AFC. I mean, so it's good for whoever wins best be feeling pretty good at the games, at least in the state of California.
Well, yeah.
And nobody really
Fair.
brought that up, but
Super Bowl's a little different though. I feel like a lot of
it
people think
definitely is. It definitely is.
You know,
But
so.
still, this is travel distance, whatever. You get there a month early. It feels like whatever.
It
Any
hasn't
other
really
thoughts?
hit me yet that the Bengals are 1 win away from the Super Bowl. Like, I've been waiting my whole life
No.
for this, and it doesn't.
It
They have to like slay the giant, but
It doesn't feel real. It really like I've been watching like winning playoff football for the first time in my entire life, and it's been like, oh wow, like that's crazy. Like I'm super excited and pumped. Like the future me has not like I'm living in the present that we just won 2 playoff games. Future me has not yet realized that we are 1 win away from playing in a Super Bowl.
Right.
I will be a problem
ridiculous.
on the internet if the Bengals win the Super Bowl. I will be a
I think we all
menace
will
to
be. I
society.
think
Yeah.
all of Bengals Twitter and it will
Especially
be a
Eli
problem
Apple.
if Joe Burrow leads this team to a Super Bowl this season.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. The amount of cigars that will be smoked, the shiesty shades that will be purchased, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. But we'll see. Hey, we got to worry about Sunday first.
Fun
2
times
great
ahead.
matchups. We're going to talk about it on Tuesday next week. I'm sure we will have all of our some Super Bowl narratives, some other NFL talk, some recaps. We got 3 games left in the NFL, boys.
Jake, you're
3
muted.
games. Jake, you're muted. It's sad.
I will be live from Mobile next Tuesday.
Excellent. Let's go. Some little reporting
That's
on the
definitely
scene.
Exciting.
Love it.
So yeah, obviously stay tuned for Jake's Senior Bowl content. Follow along at his Twitter. It's right there. And along on the TWSN social medias, Twitters as well. All of his content will be there because he will have a lot of it. It'll be a great time. Jake, enjoy yourself. But like Cody said, we'll be here next week. Follow along with social medias. Patreon, still got a couple more days. Please take advantage of that. And most importantly, enjoy football while you can. See you guys next week.
Get up, let me begin. This is